Welcome to Experiments in Happiness with Michelle Lemus, the podcast for high-achieving women who've checked all the boxes but still feel something's missing.
I think one of the biggest misconceptions about confidence is that we've been taught it's supposed to feel loud, certain, bold, unshakable. Like if you were truly confident, you'd walk into every room completely sure of yourself. You'd always know what to say. You'd never replay conversations afterward. You'd never question yourself, never overthink, never feel awkward, never doubt your decisions. And because that's the version of confidence we've all been shown, a lot of really capable women quietly assume they must be doing something wrong because externally, their life looks solid. They're competent, responsible, successful. People trust them. People rely on them. They get things done. But internally, they second guess themselves constantly. They replay conversations in the shower. They rethink emails after they send them. They wonder if they talked too much or not enough, if they sounded awkward, if they offended someone, if they looked stupid, if they made the wrong choice. And it creates this really strange experience where your life looks stable from the outside, but you don't actually feel stable inside it. I think a lot of women live there for years without realizing how exhausting it is because self-monitoring is exhausting. Constantly evaluating yourself, adjusting yourself, questioning yourself, performing competence instead of actually feeling grounded in yourself, that takes energy. And I think a lot of women assume the solution is, I just need more confidence. I need to stop caring what people think. I need to be stronger. I need to stop overthinking. But honestly, I don't think most women need the version of confidence they've been chasing because I think the version we've been sold is often performative. And I don't mean fake necessarily. I just mean externally focused. It's about appearing confident, looking confident, sounding confident. It's about proving something. And when you're always trying to prove yourself, you stay hyper aware of yourself. That's the trap. Because proving energy and grounded energy are not the same thing. I think a lot of women confuse the two, especially high achieving women, because high achieving women are often rewarded for performance, for being polished, prepared, articulate, impressive, helpful, accomplished. And again, none of those things are bad. But if your sense of confidence becomes tied to how well you perform, then your confidence becomes conditional. You only feel okay when you think you're succeeding, when people approve, when you said the right thing, when nobody's upset, when you got the outcome you wanted, when you feel impressive. And the problem with that kind of confidence is that it disappears the second life gets messy, the second you make a mistake, the second someone disagrees with you, the second you don't know the answer, the second you feel awkward. And honestly, I think that's why so many women secretly feel insecure, even when they're objectively doing really well, because externally successful and internally secure are not automatically the same thing. I've met women who are incredibly accomplished and still deeply unsure of themselves internally. And I think part of the reason is because they never learned self trust. They learned achievement, they learned performance, they learned how to earn approval, but they never learned how to feel safe inside themselves without it. And I think that changes everything because there's another kind of confidence that nobody really talks about. And honestly, I think it's the kind that actually matters most. It's quieter, less performative, less attention seeking, less desperate. It doesn't need to announce itself constantly. It's the kind of confidence where you stop feeling the need to explain yourself all the time. You stop trying to manage how everybody perceives you. You stop spiraling after every interaction. You stop treating every imperfect moment like evidence against your worth. And no, it doesn't mean you never doubt yourself. I think that's important because I don't think confident people are people who never feel doubt. I think confident people are people who are no longer controlled by doubt. That's different. Quiet confidence sounds more like I can handle it if this goes imperfectly. I trust myself to figure this out. I don't need everybody to agree with me. I don't need to perform perfection to belong here. That's a completely different energy. And honestly, I think it feels calmer, more grounded, because performative confidence is exhausting. You're constantly managing optics, managing impressions, managing perception, managing how you're being received. And I think a lot of women don't even realize they're doing this anymore because it's become automatic, especially women who are socially aware, especially women who grew up praised for being good, easy, helpful, high achieving. You learn very quickly how to read the room, how to adjust yourself, how to avoid discomfort, how to make sure everybody else feels okay. And eventually, you become hyper aware of yourself constantly. I think that's why so many women struggle with overthinking, not because they're weak, not because they're irrational, but because they've spent years training themselves to monitor themselves constantly. And honestly, sometimes what looks like insecurity is actually hypervigilance. You're scanning constantly for signs that you did something wrong, that someone's upset, that you sounded dumb, that you embarrassed yourself, that you disappointed someone. And your brain thinks it's helping you. It thinks, if I analyze this enough, I can avoid rejection, avoid judgment, avoid failure. But the problem is, there's no finish line to that because human interaction is messy. People misunderstand things, people project things, people have moods, people have preferences. You cannot perfectly manage how everybody experiences you. And trying to do that will drain the life out of you. I really think one of the biggest shifts in confidence happens when women stop asking, how am I being perceived right now? And start asking, do I trust myself right now? That's such a different question because perception based confidence depends on external feedback. Self-trust based confidence depends on your relationship with yourself. And honestly, I think self-trust is the real foundation of confidence. Not perfection, not charisma, not certainty. Self-trust, trusting that you can survive awkwardness, trusting that you can handle mistakes, trusting that disagreement does not equal danger, trusting that imperfection does not make you unworthy, trusting that you do not need to constantly perform to deserve space in a room. That's powerful. And I think one of the reasons women struggle with this is because so many of us were subconsciously taught that likability equals safety, that approval equals safety, that being impressive equals value. So, of course, we over explain. Of course, we rush to clarify ourselves. Of course, we fill silence. Silence feels dangerous when you're used to managing perception. And I notice this especially with women who are incredibly intelligent. They often over explain not because they're unintelligent, but because they're trying to prevent misunderstanding. They're trying to pre manage everyone's reaction. And honestly, I get that. I think a lot of us do it without realizing it. Someone asks a question, and suddenly you're giving 12 supporting details to justify your answer, not because you owe anybody that explanation, but because somewhere inside you, you're trying to prove your reasoning is valid. You're trying to secure approval before anyone has even challenged you. And I think one of the most uncomfortable but powerful confidence shifts is learning to stop over explaining. Not in a cold way, not in a rude way, but in a grounded way. Answering the question and letting it stand, making a decision and letting it stand, having an opinion and letting it stand without immediately scrambling to defend it. That's hard for a lot of women because when you've built your safety around being well received, not over explaining can feel terrifying. It can feel irresponsible. Your brain starts going, they think you're rude. They think you're wrong. They think you don't know what you're talking about. But honestly, that discomfort is often where quiet confidence starts getting built, not by becoming louder, not by pretending not to care, but by slowly teaching yourself, I do not need to perform certainty every second to be okay here. And I think one of the biggest signs of quiet confidence is the ability to tolerate discomfort without immediately trying to fix it. That's huge. Tolerating silence, tolerating misunderstanding, tolerating imperfection, tolerating the possibility that not everyone will approve of you. That's real emotional stability. And honestly, I think emotional stability is more attractive than performative confidence anyway, because grounded people feel safe. They're not frantic. They're not constantly trying to prove themselves. They're not seeking validation every 5 seconds. They're just anchored. And I think a lot of women are craving that feeling, not becoming louder, not becoming dominant, just becoming more internally solid, feeling less emotionally thrown around by every interaction, feeling less consumed by self-doubt, feeling less dependent on approval. And I think this matters because when you don't trust yourself, you end up outsourcing your confidence constantly. You look to other people to tell you if you're okay. You look to outcomes, validation, achievements, praise. And the problem is, those things are unstable. Somebody can praise you one day and criticize you the next. Somebody can adore you and misunderstand you in the same week. If your confidence depends entirely on external response, you'll always feel emotionally shaky because other people are inconsistent. Life is inconsistent. Perfection is inconsistent. And honestly, I think one of the most healing things a woman can learn is I can still trust myself even when things aren't perfect. That's powerful because self-trust allows you to move through life without needing constant reassurance. Not because you never care what people think, but because their opinion is no longer the foundation holding you up. And I think that's what grounded confidence really is. It's not loud certainty, it's internal steadiness. It's knowing, even if this interaction was awkward, I'm still okay. Even if I made a mistake, I'm still okay. Even if somebody disagrees with me, I'm still okay. And that's freedom. And honestly, I think a lot of women spend years trying to become more impressive when what they actually need is to feel safer inside themselves, because those are not the same thing. One creates pressure, the other creates peace. And maybe that's the experiment this week. Not trying to appear more confident, not trying to sound more confident, not trying to become somebody louder. Just noticing how often you rush to prove yourself, how often you over-explain, overcorrect, over-monitor, over-perform, and then practicing doing a little less. Pausing before responding, letting silence exist for one extra second, giving a shorter answer, not immediately justifying your choices, and noticing what comes up internally when you do. Because that discomfort, that's not failure. That's the space where self-trust starts growing. And over time, those tiny moments build something really powerful, not performative confidence, quiet confidence. The kind that doesn't need to constantly prove itself because it's finally rooted in something deeper, self-trust.
Thanks for listening to Experiments in Happiness. You can find more tools and resources at experimentsinhappiness.com.